roster. I mean, I really do. I think, we're a talented roster. We're way different on paper this year than we were last year, but we're not done. We're not done developing our players. We're not done getting the young guys ready to go. We're not done potentially adding pieces. But I love our roster. I love the makeup of the young men in that room, the way they love one another, the way they care about one another. And, I know I pointed out the other day, but I'm going to point out again, if you got guys like Jonathan Mingo that's literally 25 yards behind the play, and he's willing to run for the love of the game, but more importantly, the love of his brother, to keep a guy from scoring on a punt return for a touchdown, you've got the right chemistry.
I think the story is still alive. I would just hope that the Cowboys don't see adding Von Miller as crossing off their pass rusher need. And
quite possible, though.
It is possible.
Yeah, it's very possible. Yeah,
that seems like a Stephen Jones thing to do.
Sure, we added. He talked about all the pass rushers he had. He added Von Miller. Now he's gonna. If he's got anything else left, he's probably looking at a running back, or he's probably looking at maybe a linebacker here.
For himself, though the last of those was a decade ago, bounced around between Buffalo and D.C. the last 2 years. Miller from DeSoto, Texas, signed with the hometown Cowboys on a one-year deal over the weekend. The defense was a disaster for the Cowboys last year. Brian Schottenheimer, though, sounds satisfied to add Miller to the defensive huddle.
What I love about Von is we've got a lot of inside information, knowledge about him as a player. Certainly what he's accomplished is incredible, but what you hear about him as a teammate is even more incredible. And my few conversations with him, he's really excited about being part of what we're building here. Von's going to make us better on and off the field, and I think that's what we're excited about.
Back with Sam Acho. And Sam, let's stay right there. You played in the front seven. You're 7 months older than Von Miller. What impact do you see Miller having on this Dallas team in 2026?
Oh, it's the perfect fit. I'm not only 7 months older, I also played against Von Miller in college. We've played together at the Senior Bowl. We've been kind of connected in different ways, both being from Dallas. Von Miller in this edition of the Cowboys is a perfect fit. The reason why is he doesn't have to be an every down pass rusher. Last year he played about 37% of the snaps, still had 9 sacks. And so you think about the addition of Rashawn Gary on the outside for the Cowboys, rushing the quarterback, Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams on the inside, and then young guys like Donovan Ezeraku on the outside, Malachi Lawrence, who's a rookie. You don't have to rely on the rookie, rely on the younger players. If it's third down, i.e. money down, put Von Miller out there. He's good for a couple sacks in critical moments. So I think it's a perfect addition. And oh, by the way, let's not forget Caleb Downs on the back end as a rookie. I think it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, Dallas goes defense in the first round and adds Miller his highest sack total since 2021. Sam, let's stay in the NFC East. It's a really compelling division. There's optimism for Big Blue. Malik Neighbors hopes to be healthy for Week 1. What are your expectations for New York now with John Harbaugh manning the ship?
I have a high level of confidence in New York, not only this year, but for the future. Isaiah Likely is a name, tight end who was in Baltimore, came over with Harbaugh, as well as Patrick Ricard. They're bringing over this Baltimore Ravens type of mentality. They want to be physical. They want to run the ball. But also you think about Malik Neighbors and Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo. They have the flash and the talent on the outside as well. So I think about John Harbaugh's experience and his confidence, his ability to win, not only win divisions, but also bring teams together. I think it's a perfect fit for New York, and I expect them to be to have a successful season. Now, of course, Philly is, two-time back-to-back championship of their division. Dallas is going to be strong as well, but I think they'll be a lot better than people expect.
Yeah, and all those teams you mentioned ahead of them, they were imperfect. I mean, last year, 7 wins was good enough for second in the NFC East. Sam Acho, thanks so much for joining us here on SportsCenter. Injury is an unfortunate reality of the NFL preseason. Jordan Tyson, number 2 receiver off the board in the draft, could miss 2 months with a hamstring injury, sources tell Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo. The Saints wideout hurt during a joint practice with the Jags. 2-month timetable almost exactly coincides with the Saints' Week 7 game in Paris. We're 3.5 weeks from the Rams opening their season in Melbourne. 100,000 strong expected at the MCG against the Niners. The fever dream of the Super Bowl favorites building an all-time great D-line. Another step toward reality. Aaron Donald working out again with the team over the weekend. Dan Graziano, what hurdles, pun intended, remain for this to happen?
The Rams have been waiting for Aaron Donald to come to them and say, yes, I want to come out of retirement. I want to play again. And if that happens, then they have to talk about the contract situation. He retired with a year and $30 million left on his contract, so they'd have to figure that out because, frankly, they don't have $30 million in cap space. So there'd have to be an adjustment there. Talk about the role, what he would need to get ready for the regular season. Remember, they're opening in Australia against the 49ers in week 1. So a lot of the particulars, but it has to start with Aaron Donald telling them he wants back in. These workouts that he's doing with the team are certainly the last sort of data points of information he's trying to gather before making that decision.
Yeah, and this is a 35-year-old who's been out of the league a couple years, but he's built like a tank. Won Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2014, and then since 2015, Donald leads all defensive players in first-team All-Pro selections, got 8 of them. And again, hasn't played since 2023. He could team up with Myles Garrett, who's tied for second on this list with Bobby Wagner, 5 first-team All-Pro selections. Von Miller's a 3-time first-team All. Next Saturday, Week 0 kicks off the college football campaign. Preseason AP Top 25 dropped Monday. New poll, who dis? Familiar Buckeyes at 1. Ohio State's 9th season as the preseason AP number 1, and they've now opened in the top 5 for 10 straight years. They've got a big one at Texas in Week 2. Big Ten's also at number 2 with Oregon, their highest preseason ranking ever. QB Dante Moore returns for the Ducks. Could have went to the NFL draft where he was projected to be a top 5 pick. Boise State visits Eugene in Week 1. Number 3, we go between the hedges at Georgia. Bulldogs ranked in the preseason top 5 for a 9th straight season, 4th longest such streak in AP poll history. They open as 45.5-point favorites against Tennessee State. We find the Fighting Irish at number 4, their highest preseason ranking since beginning the year at number 2 in 2006. Under center, in South Bend, Heisman favorite C.J. Carr, the quarterback. Notre Dame, fun one in Week 1. They face Wisconsin. And Texas rounds out the top 5, led by that man, Arch Manning. The favorite to go number 1 overall in next year's draft per DraftKings. Texas State visits Austin to start the season for the aforementioned showdown against number 1 Ohio State as they come to town. So going off of Monday's preseason rankings, here's what the CFP bracket looks like. The rematch of last year's title game at 6 and 7, we got the 2 schools involved in it, Indiana and Miami. Boise State is your best group of 5 champion at the 12 seed. They would visit Texas. Sam Acho played for a national title at Texas, and Sam, we got Ohio State opening at 1 this year. Last year, as you know, Texas opened at 1 and they lost in Week 1. When you look at these Buckeyes, what concerns you about them being ranked that high?
I'm concerned about the losses on the defensive side of the ball for Ohio State. 3 first-round picks from their defense are currently not on their defense and are now in the NFL. And I understand that offensively, they're going to have a Heisman candidate in Jeremiah Smith and even another Heisman candidate quarterback in Julian Sayin. But the leadership of Caleb Downs, who now plays for the Cowboys, guys like Sonny Styles with the Commanders, so much talent is gone. They had 11 players drafted overall. And so I understand that they're one of the best teams in college football, but it's going to be hard to replace not just the talent, but also the leadership on the defensive side of the ball.
And Sam, to find the last preseason number 1 team to win a national title, you got to go back to Alabama in 2017. And we haven't seen these teams play. Preseason polls have inherent flaws. You look at last year, 12 of the top 25 ultimately finished unranked. That's 48%. When you look at this preseason top 25, who to you is ranked too low?
I think that Notre Dame is actually ranked too low. To me, that should be the number 1 team when it comes to these preseason polls. The reason why is some of the dominance that they're going to have on the offensive line and also quarterback C.J. Carr, but also defense. Remember, Marcus Freeman, their head coach, is a defensive-minded coach, a former defensive coordinator. They have a guy by the name of Leonard Moore who plays cornerback, who's probably going to be the first defensive player, at least the first cornerback, first defensive back taken. And so you have a team that's hungry, probably feeling a little bit salty of not making the playoff last year. A veteran quarterback in C.J. Carr who has experience, a veteran offensive line, and a dominant defense, also with a relatively easy schedule. I think Notre Dame's a team that people need to look out for.
Well, Sam, we have the AP rankings out, and we have then rankings we'll call with people with vested interest. CFP title odds, number 11 LSU, 8th best odds 17-1. Ohio State and Notre Dame share the shortest odds to 6-1. I want to point out, though, number 9 Ole Miss, ahead of LSU in the AP Top 25. They're not pictured here. They're 30-1 to win it all. Looking at those 2 programs, as you do, Lane Kiffin's last team against his new ones. Did you think the odds makers got this right with LSU above Ole Miss, or do you agree with the AP that it's Ole Miss above LSU?
I like the AP poll. I think the poll voters got it right. I like Ole Miss being higher than LSU. Part of the reason why is quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. Trinidad Chambliss was dominant last year, especially ending the season. He's a quarterback for Ole Miss. LSU, Sam Levitt's a transfer. They're going to try to figure out what he's going to do. But Trinidad Chambliss took over when it mattered the most. I got a chance to not only be at, but announce one of his playoff games last year and also be at the Sugar Bowl. And it was amazing watching him work, taking over against Georgia. That was impressive. And, of course, he did great in earlier games against Tulane. And so for me, it's Trinidad Chambliss. It's Pete Golding, their head coach, who has the experience now from the playoff, who's also a defensive-minded coach. And also, don't forget running back Kejuan Lacey, outstanding back as well.
And circle your calendar. Lane and LSU return to the Grove September 19th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. And don't go too far. Circle your calendar. Sam Acho's coming back to talk a little NFL ahead on SportsCenter.